doctors, physicians, healthcare workers, this is the biggest problem that we face is, we have a voice, we have a message, we're really knowledgeable about specific things and we want to help people. At the end of the day, we're in the clinic, and how do we deliver the message is really the issue.
Now we talk about video production, right? So we talk about the procedure and the value that is in the office, and video is just a way to capture the value and show it to people.
People are able to now go and listen to a patient's outcome and testimonial, a full explanation video done by myself that's done with really good graphics, and they just get it.
Today, we're going to talk about strategic video content development for doctors. And it's especially important for doctors who have something that is very unique to offer. Talking about unique, the strategies you're going to hear about are also unique. They're different, they're innovative. And that's because you don't want to be like everybody else. You actually want to be different. And talking about, what actually works, what moves the needle, how to make it easy. We're going to be talking about this today, and actually how to implement it. So when it comes to implementation of this, on the doctor side, some people struggle with it and some people really do it right. And that's why today I would like to feature one of our amazing clients who is really doing it right. We support him, and at the same time, we really admire him for what he is doing and for what his vision is. He already built something that is very powerful. Multi-location practice, Orthobiologics Associates. Mothership is in Florida. Multiple locations, Massachusetts. People are flying all over the country to him and his team. Why is that? It's because he has something that is very unique to offer. He has the philosophy that is like a magnet for people because they really feel the intention to help the patient. And he attracts collaborating partners. He also has something in the clinic disrupting regenerative medicine space. Because when it comes to regenerative medicine, it's not just about treating chronic disease in a traditional sense and doing what everybody else is doing. What he did is he actually brought as part of the portfolio of his services, he brought a service that even you as a doctor, if you're a doctor watching this or listening to this, I can bet you probably don't know about this one. There is a service that treats herniated discs better than most other services. It's non-surgical and it's just unbelievable. And yet at the same time, a lot of even amazing doctors don't know about this. So if you are a doctor watching this or listening to this, consider our guest as an awesome collaborating partner for yourself. If you have a clinical condition that you think like maybe nobody else was able to support you, keep in mind that our guest today may be holding that key to a better future for you or your family member. I'm here with a truly amazing person, Dr. Vincent Depasquale. Welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Where do we start? I would like to start with your passion. Where is that passion coming from so people get to meet you?
Growing up, I wasn't always very healthy. I watched my grandparents die of end-stage diabetes. It took a long time for that to happen. I recognized that the traditional medical model wasn't giving them what they needed, which was really health. They just managed really the condition over time, and they got worse and worse with age. And it was really horrible for them. They probably lived like 20 years of their life with really no quality of life. So I was able to see that. I was involved in it as a young person. I wasn't healthy myself. We can talk about why from a lifestyle perspective. But at the end of the day, I just recognized that the traditional medical model, while it's very powerful, didn't really help people in a chronic and degenerative environment. So I knew that there was a need for a different style of medicine or a different paradigm in healthcare, and that's the one I wanted to learn. So that's kind of the direction that I went in.
Yeah, and we can definitely see that, there's something beyond you doing certain things that is actually behind it, like a hidden force. And usually it's a personal story. Usually it's something that really makes you go above and beyond to help the patient, to build a big team that has an impact, because you were also on the receiving end of this when it comes to problems, and you understand and empathize with people. Before we get to the strategies, because you really are awesome implementing these strategies, and for us as a consulting company and a marketing agency, it is a pleasure to work with somebody who is just taking what we recommend and doing it better than we could ever imagine. That is truly awesome. At the same time, I want to first start with people understanding the unique value that you give to the world. And in particular, I actually want you to talk about the secret service that you have, the secret service for disc issues that you have that I really would like people to know about. So what is it?
So I think you're talking about the Discseel procedure.
That's right.
Predominantly, right? And, I think it fits really well into a regenerative model. I mean, I work predominantly in a regenerative orthopedic practice. We always talk about the idea that we take a holistic approach to solving for chronic joint pain, but there were conditions outside of our scope, so to speak, right? So if somebody has a really big disc herniation with radiculopathy, where they're experiencing leg pain or they're having some level of, to some degree, beginning stages of neurological dysfunction, it's because the disc herniation is rather large. And typically in those cases, even with the regenerative tools we had at our disposal and the complex spine work that we were able to perform, we usually would send those patients out for surgery because that would typically be the best tool in that circumstance because it's an immediate crisis. We have to solve for the disc herniation as quickly as possible. And with the Discseel procedure, it really just allows us to do that in a very different way. So rather than removing tissue, we're able to repair tissue. It's a really unique approach using a biologic. It's called fibrin. It does come from an outside source, but the best analogy I have is it's like fix a flat for a tire. Mm-hmm. So most disc herniations have annular tears. That's why the herniation is able to, be present. So what we do is we put a needle into the disc. We do what's called an annulogram, which shows us where the tears are, and then we use fibrin to seal it. So rather than, again, cutting the disc out or cutting a portion of the lamina, the bone out to make room for the irritated nerve root, we're able to repair the disc. And in that sense, we also use other regenerative tools in conjunction with it, possibly exosomes or bone marrow and PRP in conjunction. But what that allows us to do is salvage or keep the tissue that we have and just repair it in a minimally invasive outpatient environment.
That is amazing. Let's compare this to surgery when it comes to results and when it comes to recovery.
Well, I mean, we don't really talk in terms of recovery because we're not cutting anything out, right? So it's not a surgical procedure. So they're not any different from when they first came in. It does take a little time for things to have an effect. And that's variable based on the areas that we're treating, the tissue that we're targeting, et cetera. The bottom line with spine surgery is when we have a really big disc herniation that needs to be cut out, that's a period of crisis. And we do that for a primary reason. It's not just to solve for the pain that the patient is experiencing. What we know about symptomatic disc herniations is a lot of times those will resolve on their own, even with conservative care in terms of the pain pattern. The disc herniation is typically always present. But the reasoning behind cutting it out would be to take pressure off of the nerve, because if we keep pressure on the nerve and the nerve is continuously irritated, then it can promote neurological deficit, which we may not be able to recover. So typically in the circumstances, it's a very successful procedure in a surgical setting because it can solve for that one issue, which is the dominating leg pain that the patient is experiencing. But what we know about that issue down the road is that we'll end up with accelerated degenerative change. We're removing a portion of the disc. It destabilizes the motion segment. It creates, movement aberrations, and then over time we get arthritic changes. So even though we may be out of pain for a short period of time, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 years, we're going to have to solve another problem that may develop as a result of doing a procedure like that. So in a Discseel environment, we're able to salvage the disc, we're able to repair it, and prevent any future degenerative changes to the best of our ability.
That is amazing. And, we talk about complications of surgery. We talk about the cost. We talk about the recovery. We talk about the need for another surgery that is very likely. And it's scary. And I'm saying this not just as a person interviewing you. I'm saying as somebody who also has a bulging disc, herniated disc in my lower back. And I was on the receiving end of this really terrible pain. And this is something that you just cannot live with. And I really empathize with people, and just knowing that there are these solutions that in case something ever happens that is that bad, it doesn't mean right away, cutting it out and then, dealing with surgery. There are other solutions. And I think that's quite amazing. How rare is this procedure? If there is a provider watching this or listening, I want them to know how rare this is. It's not in every office that offers regenerative medicine, right?
So it's not. I mean, it's gaining in popularity. So where I am, the inventor of the procedure, his name is Dr. Kevin Paza. He's from Southwest Florida, right? So a little bit further south than where I am in Tampa. So obviously there's a few more people in this area that do it because you have to go through his training process. Throughout the country, I know that it's gaining in popularity quite a bit just because of the effectiveness and the outcomes, which are phenomenal. And people are starting to resonate more with regenerative medicine just in general in terms of how they go about solving for health challenges, right? I think a lot of people know a friend or a family member who's had spine surgery and didn't really have a good long-term outcome. And a lot of people are pretty aware of that. So they're looking for solutions outside that model. So it is gaining in popularity, but it's still very, very small percentage of docs that actually do it.
So estimate, is this in the 10% range of all the doctors? Is it 5%?
I would say less than that. For the doctors who are able to do it, these are interventional procedures, right? So board certified anesthesiologists, PM&R docs who do interventional work on spine, typically like they do epidural steroid injections, radiofrequency ablation, branch blocks, the typical stuff. They're equipped from a technical standpoint to be able to put this into their practice. I would say less than maybe 1% of the practicing docs who have the capacity actually do it.
Less than 1%.
Yeah, wow. Definitely.
So now in the context of this, how important it is to capture the value, because that's a lot of value that you can possibly bring to the patient, changing their whole life and possibly impacting the whole family. How important is it? Because now we talk about video production, right? So we talk about the procedure and the value that is in the office, and video is just a way to capture the value and show it to people. So for you as a doctor who is a healer, what does it mean to be able to capture it on video, show it to people, and make it more effective to communicate the message?
This is a really big problem that most doctors, physicians, healthcare workers, this is the biggest problem that we face is, we have a voice, we have a message, we're really knowledgeable about specific things and we want to help people. But at the end of the day, we're in the clinic and, either how do we deliver the message is really the issue, right? And you can advertise and you can send out marketing reps and you can do all these things, but it loses some luster because it's not coming directly from you. So we can explain it in such a way where it makes complete logical sense. We can touch on emotions. We can kind of help people understand that there are possible solutions outside of what they only have exposure to in the insurance model. And I think the best way to do that is through video, right? So like just speaking from experience, we put out with you guys, we put out a couple of Discseel explainer videos. We did a testimonial that was structured that you guys gave us a ton of pointers on. And I mean, we routinely get 2 or 3 a month at the very least, and we just put them out. It's only been like 30 or 60 days. And people are able to now go and listen to a patient's outcome and testimonial, a full explanation video done by myself that's done with really good graphics, and they just get it, and it just hits home with them and they understand the procedure. So, I mean, to some degree, it helps, and it's multifaceted. It's not just getting the word out and having the ability to explain to people, but it shortens the sales cycle. It develops trust. When people come, they have intention. They're asking me specifically, like, I'm calling about the Discseel procedure. Can you tell me a little more about it? And do I qualify? And sometimes, they're not really good candidates and I have to talk them out of it into something different. But, they're calling looking for it specifically. And it's simply, we just put out some videos. It's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. And, what it means to these people to be able to discover and even being aware that there are options that are non-surgical, that are like this, and then they come to your office. Let's compare that to the traditional model. So prior to us meeting and doing strategic video production, you also had some experience with different ways to market. What is the difference between the traditional way that you were marketing in the past and also what you're doing now with us?
So I kind of touched on it briefly, but the traditional way that I've done it in the past is direct to consumer, cold lead generation on social platforms, done a ton of that. Relational marketing, like I've done pretty much everything, right? And at the end of the day, what you're really doing is you're fishing in the same pond as everybody else who's working specifically for like a niche. Like let's say it's chronic knee pain or it's a, disc herniation, let's say. Your leads are coming from the same place that everybody else is trying to attract leads from. So it's really difficult for the prospective patient, even though you know you have a really good solution for them, it's really difficult for them to sift through all that and determine which is the best option for me. Is it cold laser? Is it decompression therapy? Is it, rubs and creams and all kinds of things that people are marketing to them? Or is it this new procedure that's amazing that can produce a really good outcome? And they don't have trust. That's the problem, right? So they don't know who to trust because they see it as sort of everybody is just kind of coming out of the woodworks trying to take money from me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the nature of that process. Now, does it still work? Of course it does. And I think if you have integrity and you're a good doc and, you run a practice where, you're not going to recommend things that aren't appropriate for that patient, and you're going to do a good job with them, I think it's still an opportunity to have good conversations with people and ultimately plant seeds so that they can possibly come back when they're ready or when it's appropriate. But it's completely different. It's just the way, like, especially with a lot of the things you guys do, it's way more organic. It's way more educational based. It builds intent, it builds trust, and it just allows, again, to have better and easier conversations with people who are ready to, take the next step with you. Because again, they trust you, right?
Yeah. And it's
I wasn't too long-winded. I apologize.
I appreciate that because it's important for me to actually show the doctor's perspective, show what it actually is. How do you feel about one approach versus another? And just like with everything else, including clinical, integration is key. So I think it's how we integrate different components that matters, right? So we have the organic that if somebody is doing, if this is you watching or listening, and maybe you are running paid advertising campaigns, nothing wrong with it if you're ethical and you do it the right way, that's okay. But then if people actually have a major problem, I think the smart ones, the tire kickers will come just because your offer is awesome, and they will come, but they're not really the ones that you want to see. And at the same time, the really important patients that you are trying to reach, they will sometimes evaluate who is talking. And this is where the brand image online and what are the video constellations that you have. Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a brand? Can I trust, this office? I think that one supports the other. It's not really competing. It's just another strategy. The one problem that I have with a typical approach is most agencies almost train doctors to call patients leads. And I do have a, internal problem with this because on the receiving end, we always want to be treated as a person. I don't want to be a lead in somebody's funnel. And at the same time, in our terminology, and very often we are kind of like trained even in the clinical space by marketers that I don't appreciate, that it's all the numbers game and all this stuff. But is it really? Because everybody has a story and it's not a lead. Mike Turajczyk, myself, my wife, Monica, we had a major problem with her health. I never want anybody to treat her as a lead. I want to treat her as Monica with her condition that just needs to be addressed. And the beautiful part when you communicate on video, and that's where I want to give you a great compliment, is that you say what you think, how you were the same way like you're in the room with a patient. And I like it because the conversations that you have, we didn't actually have to coach you too much on how to communicate because you just communicate the way that you would communicate to the patient. You talk to them in the first person. And I think this is the reason why people connect with your messaging online and with your videos. So when it comes to strategies, one of the things that I wanted to put as number one strategy for every doctor listening to this is actually be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Don't act. Learn from Dr. Depasquale.
Well, you guys make it really easy. And it's, it's interesting because you guys come from a perspective that I wasn't used to, just because, again, like you said, you talk to a lot of agencies and you talk about sales processes and conversions and contact rates and all this stuff that the minutia that when you really boil it down, it's really just about like being real. I mean, at the end of the day, and then people resonate with that. And I think there's a lack of that in online just in general. I think the individuals who are able to put that kind of stuff out are going to do really well. That's why, obviously that's why we're getting along real well. And I'm happy to keep doing the work, but because we're seeing a result, just in everything I described, not just in an increase in people coming through the door, but just the way that they come through the door and the conversations that we're having, which are much easier, by the way.
That's amazing. And it should be easy because it's just you offering what you have. And if somebody truly is compatible with what you're offering, easy conversation leads to faster results for patients. So I love it. So to summarize strategy number one, if you say, how about keep it real?
Yeah.
Keep it real.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a way to attract people that are going to resonate with you anyway. And those are people that you want in your practice, you know?
Yes. Strategy number two that I would recommend for people to try, and you're also a great example of this because you understand, and it's probably because of all the experience that you have working with people and clinically as well, and also growing the businesses, is to think multidimensionally. A lot of times when people record a video, they think about one purpose of that video. I record a video for ads to market X, Y, and Z. What we discussed in our strategy was a video that each video should have multiple purposes. So that's something that I would like people to also keep in mind, and wanted to ask you, how do you approach it on the receiving end of this? So when we tell you, hey, this video could be a Discseel video that is on YouTube, it can be repurposed on social media, but it can also be emailed to people. It could also be boosted for ads. It could also be transcribed for a blog. It could also have SEO component because there are certain keywords in it, et cetera, et cetera. How do you process on the receive? I know how it is on the agency side that we tell you certain things. How would you say to other doctors, how do you approach it to make it easy to think about multiple different dimensions, how the video is going to be used?
That's a good question, because in the beginning, I probably didn't think multidimensional until we had a few conversations and you kept harping on where these can be used. Like just literally today, I sent out a testimonial video to a referring doctor on his patient, right? Because we had that conversation, which is brilliant. And I'm sure that he's appreciative of seeing that his patient is doing really well. But outside of that, just in terms of like, patients need more information sometimes. And now I have explainer videos for chronic joint pain. I have explainer videos for, disc herniations, all the above. So it's very nice to personalize information that you can just kind of send out and use in various aspects of the business. So again, I know we don't like to talk about, traditional agency lead generation, all that stuff, but those videos are really useful, in that entire process. And it actually allows for that process to become a little bit more streamlined, right? So, but also like even in the post-op or the post-procedure follow-up process, because again, we do a lot of ancillary therapies. We follow patients for extended periods of time, typically for a year. So during that process, it's nice to send out periodic videos that we've already developed that aid in that, that process in terms of, keeping them motivated throughout the rehab process. Talking about diet, talking about all the things that we typically talk about, but we already have that library of information that just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit more streamlined. So it works for various reasons inside the business. It's nice.
Yes. And what I'm thinking about is also a paradigm shift for a lot of people, because mindset should be slightly different than a typical marketing agency is going to tell you, which is where do you actually sit is not where you should be when you produce the videos, because we sit in the clinical chair. Right. So you're thinking I'm sitting as a doctor. I need to put out these videos for these people because I want to communicate this message because I'm not saying you, but I'm talking about a typical doctor thinking about this. This is where you're actually different. And then we also have the marketing agency saying like, we have this funnel, we have this, we have the leads coming here. And now we need this, we need this. Yes, let's put this aside and think who is the most important here, because without our patients, we have nobody. We have no business, we have no practice, we have no purpose, we have nothing. So shifting the perspective and really thinking on the receiving end, what is it that they need? And what you mentioned right now is actually very important. So somebody maybe clicked on something, they're in the communication cycle with you. That's great, awesome. But now you said keeping them motivated. Yes, keeping them motivated, keeping them informed. There are different videos that could be part of that nurture process, information process. Also, there are different feelings that are completely ignored in marketing. These patients are afraid of some of these procedures. They don't know if that's a good idea. They may think yes today and maybe tomorrow and no, I shouldn't the following day. So by sending them something, people are actually building a relationship. And what I would like everybody listening or watching to really consider is, just for a second, as an exercise, think as your patient instead of thinking as you as a doctor. And I think that can help inform what content is actually very useful.
I agree with that completely. There was a doc that I saw on YouTube, and one of the procedures that we do, like when we're harvesting bone marrow, scares the crap out of people, right? And we have to talk off
me too.
Every single one of them. We got to talk off the ledge. But there was a doc, and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, he's not going to do that on film. And then I just after he actually did it, I was like, wow, that's really powerful. So what he's doing is he's just showing people that it's not as bad as you rationalize in your head, and that's really useful. We started doing a little bit of that in various circumstances, because one of the big things that we run into and again, I hate to say alternative, but in the type of business that we work in is a lot of people are just nervous. They're nervous with needles, right? And they have this huge needle phobia.
Me too.
And it's hard for them to overcome it. Just talking them through that process and developing videos to help them, I think really just allows you to serve more people. So you're absolutely right. Like if you put yourself in a position where you really just care about their experience, then you'll be able to help way more people. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's super. And you're great. It actually comes across as your natural way of communicating. And I think that some people have it, some people don't. And either way, it's actually good to have that mindset exercise for a second, really thinking from the patient perspective much more as what they need instead of what is it that we need. Another strategy that I'm thinking about that is very important for doctors, because all of you, the good ones, are busy. You're busy. So we need to make production easy. And it even rhymes, right? So if the doctor is busy, we got to make production easy. So what is your experience with our agency when it comes to easiness of video production?
So if you remember when we first started, I was like, look, I don't know, I'm busy. I was like, I have kids and sports. I'm all over the place. I'm at multiple different offices. And you're like, yeah, no problem. I think we can make it work. We have a solution for that. And honestly, it's literally the easiest thing I've ever done. So, I'm not even just putting that on. At the end of the day, you guys make it really easy. And I don't, to some degree, think I'm a wonderful speaker, but I don't even have to prepare. It's really just a question and answer. It's done via the web, and you guys record everything, do all the post editing, and I just approve stuff. And I literally, and if you think back, which is crazy because I go in and I just keep saying approved, because there's really not a whole lot I have to change. It's really the easiest process I've ever done.
That's awesome. And that's what I'm telling people, because I just recently spoke with a doctor and she said, well, there's this one agency. And it's funny because she comes to me for help. And at the same time, she says, well, there's this other agency who is hitting me up and they are saying that they can record with me 4 hours every week and all this stuff. And my question is do you want that?
It's great.
Do you want to learn?
Never do that.
Yeah. Do you want to learn all this? So as a doctor, do you want to learn all these scripts? Do you want to actually work off of a script that is written by a marketing agency, actually taking you out of the equation? It's no longer you when you do that. So the way that we do it, just for people who don't know the process, it's as easy as we can imagine. So we send a link, which is currently we're using Riverside as a platform. So just like Zoom, but better quality. And we're able to record videos that are decent. They're good quality, good enough quality for the social media content. When we do need a professional production, we can fly, we can do all the gymnastics that are necessary. But on the day-to-day, on the educational videos and videos that serve different purposes, it can be very, very easy. And that's something that I just want everybody watching or listening to know, that for a video content production total time with our video producer, how much time are you spending, Dr. V, on an average month with just with the video producer just to record?
Maybe an hour.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe an hour.
And we kind of go back and forth and have conversations. We bang it out pretty quick. See, the beauty of it is where I get nervous on film, the only time I ever get nervous on film or in person when I'm speaking is when it's not my voice. And when I have to memorize a script, because I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't sound like me, or I'm going to mess up, or I'm going to stumble. And in this environment, it's just different. You ask questions and I'm just answering them honestly the way that I normally would. and it just flows really easy and very straightforward. It is literally wonderful.
I love that. That's super.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, there is an opportunity, and this is what I love about your office, is that just like everybody else who is on a certain level, you have assistants, you have a marketing department. There are people who are doing certain things that overlap in a sense with what we do. And when we come with additional hands and additional brains for the strategy and additional hands for work, then we like to integrate with who you are on your side. And in your case, you have Maria, who is amazing. And Maria helps, for example, and that's for anybody listening, this is a good system because somebody else besides the doctor can also provide a testimonial video, can provide something else that is very important strategically. And at the same time, the doctor doesn't have to do anything else but giving thumbs up when the video is ready. So that's another way to make production easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would highly recommend having someone like Maria.
Super. I have one more important thing to mention because a lot of times people are asking us about AI and where this is going and all this stuff. And we use AI to support video production. Of course, everybody does. And at the same time, I am seeing that this is going to be very congested when it comes to content that is information driven only and just doing these 7 tips for longevity and this and that and 2 things you need to know about regenerative medicine. Yes, of course. But it's going to be very crowded highway. On the other side, there is one area that I think is an empty highway. And this is, instead of information, is transformation. And I want to compliment you, Dr. V, because you had this one testimonial that you interviewed a triathlon athlete about her treatment and talking about the emotional components. And we featured this. You already mentioned that it's used in multiple different purposes. How did you feel when you saw the final product and you see that you have this transformation actually captured on video that you now can use multiple different ways? What does it mean to you?
It's really just nice to see the outcome that you're trying to achieve with every patient. And even though you get really good outcomes, you don't always get to see them in that context. So, I mean, it means everything, right? That's why we do what we do. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And bringing digital to physical spaces. We talked with Maria and you about bringing, for example, in waiting rooms, because you have multiple locations, people are sitting there, it's captured audience, and, there's not much to do. I just want to give people some tips on what can be done. So one of the things that we are doing with you is we did like a playlist of different videos that can be played on a loop in a waiting room, for example. Another thing that we could do, or you could do listening to this if you have other teams supporting you, is that maybe there's an awesome thumbnail on YouTube that you can put on a flyer that is in the office in the waiting room with a QR code. Watch this video to learn about X, Y, and Z service. And I just wanted to help people understand that while things are in the digital space, we are talking about physical spaces where people actually are, and that digital can be brought to physical. So I just wanted to ask you if you ever had any thoughts about this and also any ideas that you would like to share with people when it comes to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought that was an amazing idea because it can be used in so many circumstances. So we have QR codes in multiple rooms now. We're doing the in-office video because, again, we have all this content. It's completely educational. We want people to see it. We pepper it with like testimonials in between. And it's a wide variety of information that just literally runs all day and then gets us views on YouTube at the same time, which is fantastic. But I think also like just being able to leverage like just a QR code that goes to, again, it just goes back to the same idea that, it allows people to really hear our voice, understand what it is that we do, and get the message out in various forms, right? So even if we put together business cards that explain very specific services for a specific subset of patients, and we can give those business cards out where it's appropriate, right? So, if you're doing a lot of personal injury and you bring something really unique to that environment, you can go just like traditional marketing would, where you go drop off brochures. Nobody really looks at brochures anymore. A lot of people will scan a QR code and then all of a sudden it has a playlist. Mm-hmm. And then it gives them, and again, now you're educating them, you're in front of them. It's that one to many mentality where, you really have a stage at this stage of the game. How you decide to put yourself out in front of people, there are various ways. And I thought that was a brilliant idea with QR codes because you can use them in a ton of ways.
Yeah. And I love it. That's something that has potentially, 30 views on an up and coming platform could have 30,000 when it comes to the business development, and most importantly, can change somebody's life or like multiple people's life, which is very important. Another thing I'm thinking about is something that we haven't fully implemented with you yet, because it's a progress update. Basically, it's a video, like it's like everything is complete and perfect. It's a journey that we have with you, just like patients have a health journey. One of the things I would like to implement with you more and do more with this is relationship building with other providers using video strategies for that. You just mentioned one thing, that if somebody refers a patient and now they receive a video that they can just click and they can watch a video from that patient that they referred, there is a feeling attached to it. And I really believe that branding is nothing else but the process of building a feeling that will, or creating a feeling that will help people decide to choose you. So in that context, podcasting, featuring amazing collaborating partners, featuring patients on podcasts, featuring different topics, talking about that in the long format, where just like right now, we can go a little bit deeper, and then using that for multiple purposes, it can create a cobweb of connections. Because the number one problem that I see that doctors have is they are fully reliant, or many of them are fully reliant on ads. And if the ads are not performing, we have a big problem, and it creates a lot of pressure. A lot of money is spent unnecessarily, and I think it's just going to get worse. So creating more referrals, opportunities to get more referrals, creating more opportunities to get the organic content, and the interest that is being captured by all these people running ads can now be funneled into the people who actually have a brand online and some videos, because these videos organically are going to be on the receiving end. And you just open the door, and somebody else running an ad for regenerative medicine without a brand can actually do you a service, and the patient lands in your office, and rightfully so, because you're doing the right thing.
And if you remember early on, I was like, podcasting, I'm not sure I'm open to that. Like, because the thought is like, I have to develop a podcast, and I got to do all this prep, and I got to do all this work up front. And then what am I going to say? And what questions am I going to ask? Am I an interviewer? I'm not really an interviewer, but I am, even though, I'm a doctor, so that makes sense. But at the end of the day, once I understood the, sort of how you can do things with Riverside and even with Zoom, it just became very easy. And I know that I'm dropping the ball. I haven't done as many as I need to. But after, interviewing the one doc that I did do it with, our relationship got a ton better, and we now have open referral sources back and forth. I send him a lot of cases because I respect him, because he's really a good doc. He sends us a lot of cases, and it's a really good relationship. We got, I think, 2 patients just because they watched that video. It just works out. We don't keep score in that regard. At the end of the day, it's really just putting out good content, surrounding yourself with good people, and doing good work, and just making sure people know it. And the only way that you can get them to know it is by getting them to see your stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. So
rather than just a $99 free consultation, whatever you decide to advertise.
And
on
it feels, it sometimes feels so fake that it's just, I sometimes cannot even consume these ads, because I'm thinking like, I know there's a good doctor on the other side, most likely, but whoever put that particular ad is just making that doctor look like they're a construction company trying to get leads. Very, very different approach. One of the things I'm thinking about as well is it's a little twist that I want people to know, that sometimes you receive from a client a letter or an email or a phone call that they want to put the brakes, and it's a scary email. And I received one from Dr. V and Maria, actually, that we need to put the brakes because, there was a need to carve out some budget from our campaign for something else. And what I wanted to present to people is the opportunity to work with an agency that is very open to flexibility. Because what happened is, maybe Dr. V, you can tell us, because there was a break and then something happens and you send me, I think it was the following month that you sent me an email that we would actually bring it back up, which is amazing. But having that opportunity to do whatever you feel with the budget on a month-to-month basis, how does it make you feel when it comes to working relationship?
You guys are great. I think for me, I'm still learning. at the end of the day, I'm still tied to, I mean, full disclosure, I still do a lot of direct response advertising because it's difficult to get away from. You know, when the business gets to a certain point, you got to meet certain numbers and you got to make sure that you can consistently bring in revenue. And I have two sides to my business, one that is a little bit different. So I kind of have hands in both pots. And at the end of the day, you know, we have to make some decisions based on marketing budgets and other things, with the understanding that I understand the long-term goal. I understand what I want to do long-term. I know that this is absolutely necessary for my long-term success. And I can't wait to get to the point where I reach a threshold where I no longer need to have to spend so much money on the front end to bring patients through the door and have this be the primary reason that, you know, we see new patients. But again, because I come from that side, there's a transition. And you guys were just really great with us. You weren't like, well, you know, like you weren't difficult about the process at all. You understood, you saw where we were coming from, and you let us do what we needed to do. And yeah, it took 30 days for us to kind of ramp it back up. So
I love that.
We appreciate it, by the way. I mean, that's what this is about. It's a working relationship. You know, if I can give you one, you know, if I can say one thing, you just come from a really good place. You're the easiest consultant, you know, agency I've ever worked with in my life. You actually care. And it makes it really easy to do business with you, right?
Thank you so much. It means a lot. And
totally.
The mission to promote integrative healthcare is something that I live, you know, outside of the business, in my private life as well. It means a lot. That's why I'm so excited when providers team up, collaborate for patient success. It means a whole lot more than just a business handshake. And, you know, seeing you actually executing on these strategies is a joy, because we can see that what we are doing for you has fruits that mean a lot to a lot of people. And I know that we are just warming up with a lot of these strategies. So thank you so much for the update. I want to encourage everybody. First of all, you probably now understand why I really wanted to feature him on video and show you how an amazing provider who wants to do good for a lot of people is just doing his best, and he's actually not working too hard to do this, because we're trying to find ways for him to make it easy. Please connect with Dr. Depasquale. If you are a doctor, keep him in mind for referrals, clinical referrals, collaborations, even a second opinion when it comes to, you know, certain complicated cases. Also, if you know somebody who has a herniated disc and really is looking for a clinical solution, like I mentioned, that little key. I know it's a headphone, it's not a key, but he could be holding the key to a better future for a lot of people. And I would like to encourage you to connect with him. Of course, if you have any questions about video strategies and video production, how to make it easy for your practice, I'm here. You know where to find me. And Dr. V, big thank you and lots of support to you. We consult you. We, at the same time, admire you so much for what you do.
Yeah, Mike, thanks again. I really appreciate it. If you need anything from me, please don't hesitate to ask, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Have a wonderful day.